Good morning students. Welcome to Adarsh Vidyalaya Meditation online class. Children, today we are going to study an interesting new lesson, Unit 17, Reproduction in Plants and Animals. Living organisms cannot exist an indefinite period on earth. That means all the living organisms have definite lifespan, afterwards they will die. For example, if you take a dog, the dog's lifespan is around 25 years. Human beings' lifespan is around 65 years, afterwards they will die. So, before they die, they have to reproduce, they have to produce young ones. So, in order to maintain their own species, all the organisms needs to reproduce. What is reproduction? Reproduction is the ability of all living organisms to produce young ones of their own kind. Own kind in the sense, a mango tree always produces mango sapling, coconut tree produces coconut sapling. The same way, a dog produces puppies, cat produces kittens, a dog cannot produce kittens. So, all the organisms are producing their own kind. Like that, the reproductive period also differs from organisms to organisms. There is great variation shown in reproductive period. If you take a bacteria, the bacteria can multiply within a minutes. So, within few minutes, a bacteria can reproduce. If you take a rat, their gestation period is around 3 weeks. If you take human beings' gestation period, it is around 280 days. Generally, we say it as 10 months. So, the reproductive period also varies from organisms to organisms. In this lesson, we are going to study about the reproductive process and the different types of reproduction present in plants and animals. In plants, there are 3 different types of reproduction: vegetative reproduction, asexual reproduction, and sexual reproduction. Let us study one by one. First, vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction is nothing but producing new plantlets from the vegetative parts of the single parent. What is vegetative part? If you take a plant body, we shall divide the plant body into 2 parts: vegetative parts and reproductive part. The flower is the reproductive part because the flower contains male and reproductive organ. The male organ androecium and the female organ gynoecium. So, in flower, the flower is the reproductive part except flower. All other parts such as stem, leaves, roots, these are vegetative parts. These vegetative parts are not involved in the process of reproduction. So, in vegetative propagation takes place in vegetative parts. The new plantlets are producing from the vegetative part of a mother plant. Let us see what are the vegetative parts are producing new plantlets in various plants. First, leaves. In bryophyllum plant, bryophyllum is the common plant. It is grown in our homes. It is bryophyllum plant. The new plantlets are producing from the leaves. See these leaves. New plantlets are producing at the notches along the margin of the leaf. See, there are many notches are present along the margin. From that notches, new plantlets are producing. So, in bryophyllum, new plantlets are producing from the leaves. Then second, vegetative propagation takes place by stems. If you take a rose plant, if you wish to grow a rose plant in your garden, what will you do? You will take a stem cutting from the rose plant. You will plant it in your garden. Within few days, it will grow as a new rose plant. But the characters will be same, similar from which plant you have taken. So the exact characters we would see the young plantlets as well as the mother plant. So here, the same way, how we are getting young plants from the mother plant through the stem cutting, in strawberry, the new plantlets are arising from the stem. See, in the strawberry plant, the stems are so weak, the aerial stems are so weak, so they cannot grow as they are right. They grow along the soil and attaches the soil, give off adventitious roots and buds. So see, this is one of the stem arising from the mother plant. It touches the soil. From that soil, new adventitious roots forms and new buds are developed. Then, when this connection detaches from the mother plant, these buds will develop into an adult plant. Next, let us see the vegetative reproduction takes place through roots. For example, sweet potato. In the sweet potato, the roots are tuberous roots. Why it is called as tuberous roots? The reason is the roots are storing food. So, when the roots are storing food, that is called as tuberous roots. Here, the young buds, small buds are arising from the tuberous roots. Then, when these buds already detaches from the mother plant, it will grow as an independent plant. Next is bulbils. These bulbils are, it is a globose bulb-like structure. See this kind of structure. It is actually modified flower buds. It is in the shape of globose bulb-like structure. When these bulbs fall on the soil, it germinates, it develops into new plantlets. Example, agave plant. See this agave plant, here flower buds, many flower buds are there. That flower buds are in the shape of a globe-like structure. When these globe-like bulbils fall on the soil, that develops into an independent plant. Next, let's study the vegetative propagation takes place by the method of fragmentation. Fragmentation. What is fragment? Fragment means small pieces. So, in some organisms such as Spirogyra. Spirogyra is an algae. The body shape, the structure of algae is filamentous. As it is many filaments, their body shape is in the form of many thread-like structures. This algae is a filamentous algae. This filament breaks into small fragments. See, this is a fragment, this is a fragment, like that. Small fragment. It breaks into small fragment, and each fragment is develops into entire algae by cell division. So, this is actually the Spirogyra is a filamentous algae. When it is in soil, it is this kind of filament-like structure. So, from this filamentous structure, it is present in the water. When this filament breaks into small fragment, each fragment is give rise to the entire algae by the process of mitotic cell division. Next vegetative propagation takes place by fission. Example, amoeba. the fission. Fission means here the mother individual breaks into, split into two daughter individuals. This process is called fission. See, this is amoeba, this is the plasma membrane, this is cytoplasm nucleus. This mother amoeba is going to divide into two daughter amoeba by the process of fission. Let us see how this process takes place. First, the nucleus elongates. The next, the cytoplasm also elongates, and there is a small constriction seen at the middle. Gradually this constriction deepens. At last, one mother amoeba is divided into two daughter individuals. So each daughter individuals have half the number of half the size of nucleus, and around each nucleus some amount of cytoplasm and plasma membrane is formed. So this kind of vegetative propagation is called as fission. It is called as, since one mother individual divides into two, this type of fission is called binary fission. So in binary fission, the one mother individual breaks into two daughter individual by the cell division process. The next types of vegetative propagation is budding. Here, example yeast. Yeast is an unicellular fungus. The yeast reproduces by the process of budding. See, here small outgrowth. See, this is the yeast. A small outgrowth is seen at a particular site of an organism due to the repeated mitotic division. So in this region, a small outgrowth is formed due to the repeated mitotic division. Gradually this outgrowth is enlarges. After it attains maximum size, it detaches from the mother plant, mother organisms, and develops into separate independent individual. Sometimes it will be in form of chain-like structure. See, this from this yeast, this outgrowth is formed and it develops as a small inward offspring. From this offspring again a division takes place and it forms another offspring. Like that, sometimes it will be seen in the form of chain. The next is regeneration. The regeneration is the ability of living organisms, not all the organisms, some organisms have this ability, the ability of producing last part of an organism into the whole organism. See, this is planaria. When we cut this planaria into different pieces, each piece can develop into an entire organism. That is why the ability of these organisms can be grown into an entire organism. From the last body parts, they can produce the whole organism. This process is called regeneration. See, when we cut this planaria, the upper of is here. It can develop the remaining body parts and it will produce as an entire organism. This process is called regeneration. So regeneration is the process of the ability of organisms to produce the lost body parts into the entire organisms. This regeneration process we would see in certain extent of regeneration can be seen in lizards. When the lizard's tail broken, within few days it will be regenerate. So, but at the same time, if any other body parts broken in lizard, they cannot regenerate. Only the regeneration power is found in the tail. So far as we have studied the vegetative reproduction in plants. So, what is vegetative reproduction? The vegetative reproduction means the new plantlets are producing from the vegetative parts of a mother plant. Here, the young ones are exactly similar to their parents. Here only mitotic division takes place. There will be no gamete formation or there will be no gametic fusion takes place in vegetative propagation. Only single parent is involved. First we studied leaf. From the leaves in Bryophyllum, the young plantlets are produced from the leaves. The margin of the plants have many notches. From the notches, young saplings are produced. Then when they detach from the mother plant, they will develop into an independent individual. Then stems. Example strawberry. As the stems are weak, they cannot stand erect. They grow along the soil and it attaches the soil and give off adventitious roots and new buds. These new buds are developed into an independent individual when the connection is cut off from the mother plant. Then we have studied roots. Example, sweet potato. These are tuberous roots. The young buds are rising from these tuberous roots. When these buds are detached from the mother plant, it grown as an independent individual. Then bulbous. These are modified flower buds in the form of globose bulb-like structure. When they fall on the soil, they develop into an entire plant. Example again. Then fragmentation. Fragmentation, it is seen in Spirogyra. When the filamentous algae breaks into small bits, each bit develops into entire algae by cell division. Next is fission. Fission, one mother individual divides into two daughter individuals. Then budding. Budding, a small outgrowth is formed at a specific site of an organism due to repeated cell division. Gradually that outgrowth is enlarged. Then it detaches from the other organisms and lead an independent life. The regeneration, the ability of lost two parts of an organism into entire organism. Lost two body parts are developed into whole organism. Example, planaria hydra. Next, let's study asexual reproduction. The asexual reproduction, actually, the vegetative propagation also one of the method of asexual reproduction. Asexual, A means absent. Here, only single parent is involved. There will be no gamete formation. There will be no gametic fusion. Here mitotic division only takes place, no meiotic division. Then the offsprings produced as a result of asexual reproduction are exactly similar to their parent. Here let us study the asexual reproduction takes place by spore formation, taking rhizobus as an example. What is rhizobus? Rhizobus is nothing but bread mold. You just take a slice of bread, sprinkle some water on it and keep it on the table as it is for 1 or 2 days. Afterwards you would notice a white cottony growth on that bread slice. As the days go on or as the times go on, that white cottony growth turns into black color. So this is bread mold. When you keep this bread mold under the microscope, you would see this kind of structure. See, this kind of many filamentous structures are there. These filament-like structures are called as hyphae. These filamentous structures are called as hyphae. These hyphae is actually not the reproductive part. From these hyphae, small knob-like structures are seen. At the tip of each filament-like hyphae, small knob-like structures are seen. These knob-like structures are called as sporangium. Sporangium. Inside the sporangium, the nucleus is there. This nucleus divides into number of bits, numerous bits of nucleus. Then, around each nucleus, some amount of cytoplasm is formed. Now it is called as spore. See? So this is the structure of sporangium. Inside the sporangium, nucleus divides into numerous bits and around each nucleus small amount of cytoplasm is formed and now it is called as spores. When these sporangium bursts open, these spores are liberated and falls on the suitable substratum. Suitable substratum in the sense it should be the moist soil and damp soil. So when the spores falls on the soil, that spores is produces a new hyphae. From the new hyphae, again the sporangium will be formed. Inside the sporangium, spores will be there. When the sporangium gets liberated, the spores are coming out, spread on the substratum, and it will be developed into a new hyphae. So this is the method of asexual reproduction takes place by spore formation. So for this we have studied vegetative propagation and asexual reproduction. Next is sexual reproduction. As I told you earlier, in sexual reproduction, two parents are involved. The male parent produces the male gamete sperm. The female parent produces the female gamete ova. Then offsprings are produced as a result of the fusion of male and female gamete. The implant flower is the reproductive part, as it contains the male part androecium and the female part gynoecium. In some flower, both male and female reproductive part are present. That means the stamens and carpels are present. If the flower contains the stamens and carpel, that is called as bisexual flower. In some flower have either stamen or carpel. So that kind of flower is called unisexual flower. Example for unisexual flower are coconut, papaya, etc. We shall study the process of sexual reproduction clearly in the next class. Thank you.